This is the Depth Mystic Community Podcast, episode 43. With me, as always, is Jungian Depth Mystic Zach Tollen. How do we begin this week? Jungian Depth Mystic Zach Tollen? Well, we do have a topic. Is that so? Yes, it's true. I was working on my video game, which is, for the record, coming along extremely slowly, but coming along nonetheless. And I was thinking about, what am I doing? Why am I doing this? And anyone who knows my story will know that I've spent a long time in a kind of isolation, absorbing a worldview directly from the mystical source. Now, obviously, philosophers and theologians and all sorts of spiritual thinkers have debated on the nature of the mystical source. In the monotheistic West, we call it God. But I don't even lay claim to that. I don't even say it's God. I mean, if you have a God that's different from the source that I spent time learning about, then more power to you. But nonetheless, I did spend a long time absorbing this worldview, and now I feel like I own it. Okay, so you own this worldview. But how does that lead us to the topic for this week? Well, it frequently occurs to me that I'm the only one who can bring this worldview to the mind and eyes of the public. And that condition of being the only one has a lot of powerful implications. It's terrifying, for one, but it's also exciting. If you're the only person who can do a thing, that makes you a hero. Or at least it puts you in the role of the hero, and whether you become the hero depends on whether you successfully accomplish the thing. And so the image of this person, who's the only person who can do a thing, is a hero. We think of a knight in shining armor. Maybe he's on the quest for the Holy Grail, or maybe he's going to go slay a dragon, or partake in some important act of war. But it's a kind of outward-looking image that comes up when we talk about the idea that the world is in danger. Something's wrong with the world. In this case, it's the world doesn't have a good expression of this particular worldview. And the hero who's going to accomplish the worldview, I just see him as got a lance and armor and rides a horse in the Middle Ages of Europe. That's sort of like the archetypal image of the person who's got a mission. Okay, that's cool, yeah. So is that what we're going for here? Or is there more to it? There's actually a lot more to it. Because this week, I was thinking, I'm the only one who can make this video game or produce this project. But where is my support going to come from? Where is that feeling that I'm supported by something, that society or something wants me to do the job? Because it's kind of hard to just do something for oneself. That's interesting, because some people would say we're like innately selfish as people. But you're saying that it's the opposite, that if you're doing something for yourself, then it makes it harder. Yeah, it does. It's just true. In many cases, at least. There are some people who are perhaps groomed to think of themselves as the apple of everyone's eye, and therefore a worthy receiver of all the accolades that are bestowed upon the person of accomplishment. But I don't have that attitude towards myself. I feel like if I'm a hero, I want to be saving the world for the world. I want to be saving society for society. But who else knows about it? And then I realized I'm the only one who knows that I'm the only one who can save the world. So there's this additional paradox, and it definitely got me thinking. It's like you are society, insofar as you are the only one who recognizes that there is, say, a dragon in a cave at the edge of the village that somebody has to go and slay. Yeah, and it's pretty frustrating for me because I read Joseph Campbell. I read The Hero with a Thousand Faces. I read the stuff he said, and I got super excited about it, and I devoted my whole life to it. But it's almost impossible to find other people who have that level of commitment and passion to those ideas. And it's kind of perplexing. And so, over time, another figure arose in my psyche that wasn't just the hero. That's very intriguing. So who is this other figure? I told this story back in episode 7. In my mid-20s, I had a dream that I was the maintenance person for a 7-layer city. I lived on the 4th floor in a small, humble shack. And a woman comes and knocks on my door and asks me if I am me. And I say yes. And then she surprises me by saying she has my baby. Now, when I woke up from this dream, I calculated the time from when she said she had my baby, like how old it was. She told me how old it was. And I subtracted that amount of time plus, I guess, something like 9 months for the gestation period. And I tried to imagine what happened at that time that I should have a baby now that is like 18 months old at the time of the dream. And I concluded that it was at the time when I decided I should make a video game to characterize the worldview that I had just gotten from my heroic adventure, from what I now call my mystical experience. It began first when I discovered Joseph Campbell at age 19, and then 6 months later when this powerful white light just sort of came and grabbed me and took me over. Little did I know at that time that when I was 41 years old, the white light would finally let me go, and I'd have to figure out things on my own. But the hero's journey always involved a return. You get the call, you go on the adventure, you acquire a sacred treasure, and then you come back. So I concluded at that time that my video game that I am now working on intensely was the societally acceptable form of expression for the treasure that I had gotten in the mystical place. And as the dream indicates, it was brought to me by this woman. Okay, why do you think it was a woman? Well, in my life, I had had some beneficial relationships with a number of women who helped heal my wounded relationship with my original mother. And so by the time I was 25, it's as if my understanding of what the relationship of the mother is supposed to be like was ready to produce an offspring. Okay, I think there might be a way to connect what you're saying to what you said at the beginning about how you're the only one who can do it. Well, let me let you explain it. Yeah, so like last week, for the first time I realized there's a special role for the person who is the nurturer, who plays the role of society, who in this case is the only one who knows that I'm the only one who can bring this worldview to the world. And that is like the mother. That's the archetypal mother nurturer. It's not her job to actually make the video game. It's her job to know why the hero is doing what he's doing. She knows the context. And in my lonely journey, that figure was not detectable in any actual person out there. I had to evolve what Carl Jung calls the anima, which is the powerful feminine image in a male's psyche, which he can only acquire knowledge of and develop through intense struggle, generally speaking. Ah, yes. That actually makes sense because in Jungian psychology, each gender emphasizes the qualities that pertain to their gender normally in daily life. And so they tend to repress the other side. But the archetype of wholeness is actually dual. It's yin and yang. It has both in it. And so if you repress one aspect of yourself for too long, you will often have a dream that is a manifestation of the other aspects of your psyche that have been repressed, and that the archetype of wholeness is now insisting that you become aware of via the dream. Well said, podcast host Zach Tollen. You are learning well. I didn't even need to explain that aspect of Jungian psychology. Thank you. But anyway, I guess this would apply to your situation with the woman appearing. Yes, and this week I had an intellectual insight, which I was fortunate enough to be able to connect with this archetype. Because I started to realize that the fact that I was the one who knew that I could do the thing, and that I'm not surrounded by a sufficient supply of community or advocates, I don't have enough of that community in my world so that the village can play the role of the ones who know that I'm the knight in shining armor. Like, the village in my world, they're just a bunch of people who know far less than I do about virtually everything that I care about. I'm simply not surrounded by people who could cheerfully and lovingly play the role of supporters as I develop my own video game. Or you could say the video game which shall represent this worldview. And so in addition to being the hero, this other figure is manifesting and becoming better understood by me, which is the active nurturer. It's the one that knows the hero is a hero. And she is a hero all to herself as a result. This is coming into view now. Because now we can talk about the archetype as it has manifested in the history of our civilization. Yes, you can see where it's going. So the Catholic Church at first was not particularly interested in the Virgin Mary. It was part of the legend that Mary gave birth to Jesus with no sperm donor, let's say. And that was just sort of an accepted truth by the people of the first 1,000 or so years of Christianity. Now, I don't know the precise history of the cult of Mary, but I know she really started taking off around the year 1000. In other words, the Catholic appreciation of the Mother of God only really started accumulating energy as an archetype in the second half of the Christian era. This is pretty deep. What you're saying, it's pretty easy to swallow when it's just you meditating on your own life. But if you're going to start connecting it to like the Virgin Mary and 1,000-year-old tradition and distinguishing that tradition from the 2,000-year-old tradition that is Christianity generally, now you're getting into those deep waters that not everybody appreciates. But I mean, obviously I do. I'm the host of a podcast devoted to exploring those deep waters. But this is pretty powerful. Yeah, for my part, I knew that Jung really cared a lot about the dogma of the Assumption of the Virgin. And that the stuff that Jung studied had a significant balance between masculine and feminine energies, like Latin alchemy in general, I guess, but especially Latin alchemy, as opposed to the more masculine energy that Christianity typically brings forth. Alchemy has this balance. It's very much connected with opposites emerging and then trying to reconcile the opposites and form a union at a higher level. And that's kind of like a male and a female trying to reconcile and form a child at a higher level. Like the alchemists called their stone Filius Philosophorum, the child of the philosophers. And a child requires a female component to bring it forth. That's true, but doesn't he also mention it in answer to Job, his official statement about Christianity itself? Yeah, in answer to Job, Jung says that he considers the Catholic dogma of the Assumption of Mary, which was officially declared in 1950, after about 1,000 years of people basically believing it, but it never being confirmed by the church as such. That was the most significant religious event in world history since the Reformation, which started in 1521 and divided Western Christianity into 1,000 different Protestant sects, in addition to the mother church. And nobody talks about this, by the way. Like, literally nobody knows what to say about Jung's specific opinion that the dogma of the Assumption of the Virgin in 1950 was as important as Martin Luther posting the 95 Theses on the door in 1521. Because, like, Jung is either crazy or he's way ahead of everybody else. He's either wrong or he's right and nobody realizes it yet. And so it was actually pretty exciting for me to discover that this archetype of the nurturer, I'm the only one who knows that Zach is the only one who can bring forth this worldview. And that the nurturer needs nurturing. You know? Because I'm the only one that knows, I need to treat myself well. It's like, as the mother of God, I need to treat myself well, as it were. You know? Now, Catholics obviously ask the Blessed Mother for help all the time. You know, they assume that her powers of nurturing are readily available. They don't normally, to my knowledge, think that they have to nurture the nurturer, that they have to do what they can to make sure that the nurturer is as capable as possible to do her job of nurturing the hero. I don't know if they think that way, but that's okay, because I now have a personal insight into what that archetype means. Like, what the archetype of the Mother of God is really about. And in my case, it's about, in order to do a heroic thing, like that goes against the grain, that stands against the currents of the people around you, and maybe the whole world around you, I can't just do it alone. Like, I need the support of a feminine presence. If you had, like, the golden girlfriend who could do that, then that would be great. But suppose you don't. Well, maybe you can experience what I experienced, which is the anima comes to me in a dream. And she's kind of an amalgamation of a lot of women who were friendly, but she's in a way better than those women because she knows exactly who I am and what I'm capable of. But now I'm at the phase where I have to consciously nurture her. I have to consciously get her in the supporting role to be as blessed as possible. Wow, I like it. What else is there to say about this experience you had? Well, it's actually a pretty new thought to me. Recognizing the heroic role of the nurturer, recognizing the need for me to be the nurturer of the nurturer, to help amplify this idea that I have in the back of my head of a society, of a village, of a damsel in distress who is the people who I'm saving and who know that I'm saving them, who are actually aware of what the hero is doing. That's a new thing that I've now had a kind of intellectual insight that is giving me a better position from which to actively nurture this nurturer. I think it's a big deal. And I'm really glad I was able to connect it with both the cult of the Virgin Mary in the Catholic Church, but also trying to parse out the meaning of Carl Jung's opinion that that was the most important thing in 500 years in the religious part of the objective collective human psyche. Okay, well, I hope that you get better at nurturing the nurturer. I hope that this idea of nurturing the nurturer within yourself accelerates dramatically your hero ability to complete your video game and whatever else you have to do. Why, thank you, podcast host Zach Tollen. I guess that means that our episode is over. Yeah, I think it is. I don't know how many people are going to pick up on this connection. You're the only one who knows that you're the only one who knows. And that is the archetype of the Mother of God. That's episode 43. I still have a Facebook group and a Discord server. If you did want to leave a comment and partake in the role of a community, you could leave your comment there. We will see you next week.